And be aware of your breath going in and out of the body, the pressure of the chair or the cushion against your body. The temperature in the room. And take a few deep breaths, allowing your body to relax into the sitting. And maybe just take a moment to smile. You know that you're here, you're alive, you're capable of coming to the second floor in this building, or you found the elevator and it worked. That you have clothes to wear, that you have the freedom to choose to come to a place like this. Isn't it fortunate? Aren't we lucky? Now try to remember the reason you decided to come today. And try to set a positive intention to use this time well with respect to that reason. And expand it with the hope that it not just benefit your own mind, but that it's going to ripple out to benefit those around you. So we're going to recite the long version of the four immeasurables, because this is really in keeping with the view, the path of a bodhisattva, a person who really wants to train their mind to be a benefit to all beings. And so the long version really kind of describes what the differences between ordinary. There we go. Hernan, if you could yeah, thanks. Okay. If you need a book, it's on page 111 of the Gold Prayer Book. If you can't read it from here. Now remember that the four immeasurables are four immeasurable minds. These are minds we're trying to cultivate. And the first verse is about equanimity. So when we practice, we always want to start with a base of equanimity, not favoring our friends and diminishing our enemies or people we don't like, but just wishing these things for all beings, whether we like them or not. Okay. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity free from hatred and attachment, not holding some close and others distant. May they abide in equanimity. I myself will cause them to abide in equanimity. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. Next is the mind of compassion. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and its cause. May they be free of suffering and its cause. I myself will cause them to be free from suffering and its cause. Please, Guru Deity, please be able to do this. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never separated from the happiness of higher rebirth and liberation. May they never be separated from these. I myself will cause them never to be separated from these. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do this. So Guru Deity here is just the Buddha, or your teacher plus, whatever Buddha you happen to pray to, it's just another source of refuge for Buddha's disciples. So, but it's really it's really the Dharma. Our true refuge is the path that leads to, that is the truth, that leads to happiness, that leads to the freedom from suffering, So it's what we want to take refuge in now is that we have teachings to follow that will help us drop unskillful habits or, just not useful habits and develop good habits and blah, 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 that will help us remove suffering in our life and then eventually help us to be able to really benefit others to reduce suffering in their lives, And it's the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha that help us that way. And the teachings of the Buddha are just what he learned through his experience of going from an ordinary human being to an enlightened being. So the ultimate, that's our causal refuge. That's the refuge we take when we're beginners, What we're heading towards is taking refuge in ourselves, becoming the embodiment of the teachings, where we don't have to study them anymore, where we don't have to, we don't need to learn more. What we've done is we've made them part of us and all of our actions of body, speech, and mind. And that's the resultant refuge, is our own enlightenment. So the distinction in these verses, the longer version, is, the difference between wishing that people were happy and then wanting to be active in helping them achieve that, wishing them to be free from suffering and wanting to be active in helping relieve their suffering, like that. Make sense? Okay. So now we'll do the Refuge of Bodhicitta prayer on page 98. And you don't have to recite this, of course, if it has any meaning to you. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Thank you, Nana. Okay. Hi, Tally. Hi, Elaine. Hi, Claudia. Colleen. Sherry. Ah, yeah.
So we were doing the four immeasurables, and then we read two. You mentioned equanimity, and then you mentioned compassion. So
Yeah. In between that is love. Happiness, the definition of happiness in Buddhism is the wish that someone be happy. It's pretty simple. The definition of compassion is the wish that someone be free of suffering. Pretty simple too. It is not complicated stuff. You know, equanimity is that quality of wishing this to be true for everybody, all beings, whether they're cockroaches or, you know, your worst enemy. Did you have a question? Or did I just imagine? It's probably I probably saw myself. So, and what's the idea behind this? Why would we want to try to really get our minds to be thinking in this way, to have these kind of wishes? What's in it for us? Can you say that louder?
With attachment.
Works with attachment. Having this attitude works with equanimity in particular. Okay. Attachment is when we exaggerate the good qualities of something. And, you know, want to grasp it and hold on to it, as opposed to healthy attachment, which we describe with mothers and children, you know. So it's a different word in Buddhism, in a Buddhist context. So what else? Why else would we want to work with the four immeasurables?
It brings like peace to your mind.
It brings peace to your mind. Yes, and the Buddha said it's actually the way to end your own suffering, is to develop the mind that's always thinking about others, wishing for their happiness, wishing for their peace. And if you can imagine that when you're having these thoughts, it's kind of hard to be angry at the same time. You know, it's much more of a good condition to be peaceful. Yeah.
Could you say that this is like the basis or part of the basis for enlightenment and bodhicitta?
It's absolutely the basis for enlightenment. This is where we start. And when we actually can achieve this mind of where we think this way 24/7, where we just want everybody to be happy, want everybody to be free of suffering, and that we're determined to become enlightened in order to help people achieve that, you know, the gateway to that bodhicitta mind, that ability to want to spend every moment 24/7 in this service to this ideal. You know, what's in it for us is our own happiness, our own freedom from suffering. But it takes wisdom to be able to understand what this means in terms of our daily life, you know. And so, like, attachment is part of what holds us back from being able to accomplish these kinds of minds. What, you know, at the focus of attachment, what's the central focus of attachment? Self-cherishing, self-grasping. What does that mean? What does self-cherishing mean? What does that mean? I'm sorry.
Assigning inherent existence to ourselves.
Assigning inherent existence to ourselves. Yeah, this is that one with the big words, the person. Okay. So what in very simple terms, just
What's in it for me? What do I need next to be happy or satisfied?
It's always thinking in terms of what's in it for me. You know, what do I want? You know, and that we come from, you know, attachment is sort of the name we give to all the things we want. Aversion's the name we give to all the things we don't want. You know, and we think that the path to happiness is getting what we want and not getting what we don't want. And the Buddha said, sorry, that's not correct. Sounds good, but it's not true. So we need to learn to develop a mind that starts to look at things from a different angle. You know? Yes, right.
Need the wisdom of realizing.
And then once again, that is, once you have the wisdom that realizes emptiness, which is seeing reality as it actually is, you're there. You won't have any of these thoughts. Okay, so that's the end point. So first we have to get there. Yeah. So once you have that, you're well on your way to becoming fully enlightened. If you've got bodhicitta, you know, which is the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of others. That's the key piece, for the benefit of others. If we're still kind of clinging to just what's in it for us, that will prevent us from being fully enlightened, completely enlightened. It will not prevent us from liberation. We can get free of this cyclic existence of all this suffering around and around and around we go. But we won't know how to truly benefit all sentient beings. We will not become omniscient. Okay? So what we need to understand is, what are these terms? What does it mean to be compassionate? What does it mean to be loving? What does it mean to look at things from a different angle? What does it mean, you know, to exchange self-cherishing for cherishing others? What are some of the things that come up for us when we think about these things? Yeah, Leaf.
So as you were talking and I started connecting with just how much I can love someone else when I try to the best I can get rid of myself, I actually start to tear up and worry about losing them. So attachment jumps back in and it goes, wait, don't love too much. So I was watching as you were talking about it, and I was trying to connect with your message. This weight, it scares me to actually let go of me, love someone so much, because then I could lose them, is what happened as you were talking.
Okay, so Leaf's talking about how sometimes what comes up is the fear of losing the thing that we're attached to. You know, and then that makes that clinging immediately surface. And there we are again, self-cherishing. Elaine.
Would you mind explaining an example of emptiness? That's a term that really eludes me. I don't
Yeah.
really understand it.
No, so we sometimes talk about two wings of the bird to get to enlightenment.
Mhm.
Okay. One's method or compassion, the other is wisdom. Okay. According to the Buddha, all of our disturbing states of mind, all our obstacles, all our, negative actions of body, speech, and mind, at their foundation is ignorance about how things exist. We mistake the way things exist. We think things exist from their own side, their own nature, that, like when I was born, it was me. And that meanness exists until death, and it doesn't really change. I mean, yeah, I change. My body changes. I grow up. Even my name changes, but but there's this me that's somewhere there, and I really believe that. And I imbue it with a tangibility, a concreteness that doesn't exist at all. Never existed, never gonna exist. And we do this to everybody else. This is where our stereotypes come from. This is where our, we're so surprised when a friend does something that we think is so out of character. And we're like, oh, that doesn't look like you. That doesn't sound like you. And we're just so surprised. It's because we're clinging to this sort of file folder of identity that we assign to you. And we do it to ourselves, and we do it to objects. We do it to everything, and everything appears to us that way. It's like as soon as something takes form, like a baby, have this baby. If it's your baby, it's my baby. And that takes on a whole set of connotations all by itself, Yeah.
When I think about not self-cherishing, I feel very vulnerable that now I'm open to maybe getting hurt, or I need to protect myself. And, if I don't look out for me, who's going to?
Okay, so Mary's bringing up an important aspect of our misunderstanding how things exist. She says, well, when she thinks about cherishing others, she starts to feel very vulnerable. Like there's nothing protecting her. That we need to look out for ourselves. Otherwise, danger, danger, And the Buddha's saying, guess what? It's exactly the opposite of that. As long as you keep trying to protect yourself, there's no chance for you to actually understand our interdependence, our interconnection, And also, have you noticed you get hurt anyway? That it doesn't seem to actually help. Yes.
So when you talk about true enlightenment, or the path to getting there, being enlightenment for others, in my mind, like it seems like it doesn't. I know it does, but it's like trying to fill a hole. Is it just because? Does it not relate back to me? It's kind of like it's almost ineffable to me how I would do something or want something simply because there is no other reason than that, or is there one? I'm asking.
Well, I mean, the reason, I'm not sure I can repeat what you said for the people back home. Good luck. But there is something, it isn't separated from us. In fact, our ignorance makes it seem like we're all separate. And the way things actually are is interdependent. And, we can look at it. One simple way to visualize this is to try to imagine yourself being an electron microscope, and how then you see all this activity going on, and you'd be hard pressed to tell where one object started and the other one ended, because they're swapping things. It's very active, all these electrons and atoms and blah, 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 and quarks and whatever. So, but we see things as solid, and this is me and that's you. And, there's just nothing between us. When in fact, that's not the case at all. It's like when we get sick, my illness can reach all of you, because there isn't all this empty space between us. There's active space between us. And on those little things that are active out there can carry illness from one person to another. So me taking care of myself is essential for the health and well-being of you, and vice versa. Elaine, I haven't forgotten trying to get to an example, but we misunderstand this. We really see ourselves as just these individual, independent units that come into being at birth, or before, at conception, and then go out of being at death. The Buddha said, actually, consciousness never ceases. So your stream of consciousness, my stream of consciousness, your stream of consciousness, everybody's stream of consciousness has always existed. What changes is the bodies. Okay. An enlightened being doesn't go through all that nonsense. It's not dependent anymore on this kind of body. The only reason Shakyamuni Buddha taught in a human body is because we don't have the capacity to interact with him otherwise. We wouldn't be able to hear an unembodied being. We don't have the merit for it. It's not that they don't exist. It's that our ignorance keeps us from being able to see that figuratively, feel it, hear it. You know, it's this, and this comes from our grasping at this body as being the meaning, and you know, that this is who we are. You know, yes, we have a mind with this body, but it's part of this body. Buddha doesn't see it that way. The mind and body are very interdependent, but they're not the same thing. The mind is non-physical. It doesn't go out of existence, come into existence, other than the sense that this is what's hard. It's momentary. So you know how when you light a candle, you can then take that candle and light another candle, and you can take that candle, and you know that the flame of each of those candles are related. They came from the same source light, you know, but they're individual flames, aren't they? Moments of mind are like that. They say we have 65 moments of mind in a finger snap. So it's, our minds are very, very busy. Our minds are what's aware. We're aware all the time. Guess what we're not? We're not aware that we're aware all the time. Our ignorant self misses that. Our unobservant self. So it's sort of like, you know, this is why we have to become enlightened in order to benefit others. You know, so this bodhicitta mind has our own welfare. You know, we need to take care of our own welfare as well as care about others' welfare. We cannot cause someone else or be, you know, we can't make someone else enlightened. If a Buddha could make people enlightened, we'd all be enlightened and, you know, be in a state of bliss. Because Buddha wouldn't just say, too bad, hope you catch up, you know. You know, it's just like, you know, they just take care of it. Well, they can't take care of it because the obstacles are in our own ways of thinking. It's our own minds that are blocking us, not anybody else.
Venerable Tendrin,
Yes,
what's the point of being an individual then that comes with individual?
there's no point in being an individual. It is a reflection of our ignorance. Samsara reflects our ignorant minds. There's no point to war. There's no point to all the negative things that happen to us. There's no need for any of it. It is arisen from our self-grasping. Everything becomes more and more concrete. We become more, even our planet or our universe is expanding. We're getting further and further apart from other planets, you know? I mean, like, that's really like kind of amazing, you know, but it comes from our past actions. We live in a universe that's expanding. That might be a good thing, but it also reflects this separateness. You know? So it's sort of like, it isn't, the irony is, there is really our happiness, your happiness, everybody's happiness is interdependent. They are not separate. And unfortunately, the way things appear to us is very separate, independent, like it really doesn't matter what's going over there because it has nothing to do with me. You know, we only get the message. Like climate change is a really good example of how wrong we are. It absolutely matters what's happening over here for our own survival over here, over there, over here, you know, it all matters. So from, you know, the Buddha's experience from having trained his mind in perfect concentration, having experienced existence without the filter of ignorance, understood, we have to change our minds. Go ahead, jump in there,
I'm
Lee.
just having like this brain struggle, right? Because in my mind, as you are teaching this, we are using an ignorant form of mind and labeling and separating things so that my ignorant mind can get it. So then I can try to find and get out of it. So I have to use my ignorant mind to find my way to an enlightened mind. And so I'm almost stimulating it while I'm trying to release and expand it.
But it's the same mind.
Right.
Enlightened mind isn't somehow a different mind. It's the same mind. It's just, but we've removed our ignorance. You know, we have exactly what we need in order to do this, and that's a mind. You know, that's the good news. We don't have to go buy one, you know. So it literally is trying to learn how to use this mind in a way that is effective for our happiness, as opposed to our unskillful ways of grasping at things, thinking the way to be happy is to get what I see and like, you know, and make it mine. That action of grasping superimposes an even stronger sense of separation. Because then it has to be this object, this relationship, this person to be happy. Yes.
When I find myself grasping, I'm just trying to think what would be the best idea to get out of that certain consciousness. You know, sometimes I realize it, but I get stuck in it. And I just need to know how I can move on.
Yeah, well, yep. Yeah. So what that means in Buddhist jargon is you haven't realized it. You intellectually have a glimpse of it. You have a sort of a sense of it. Yes, we're interdependent. We're not independent. You know, we have that. This is not an easy habit to break. This is why it's called wisdom. As we all know, wisdom is not the easiest thing to cultivate and be certain of. Well, so one of the things that we have to work on, for me, there are many techniques and we have to kind of use them all. But one thing that we can use is stepping back from the picture to try to get a big picture. Okay. Have you ever gone on the internet where you start in one location and then you go out a little bit, and then you go out a little bit, and you go out a little bit, that kind of thing. And then you're out in the Milky Way or something, you know, and everything's really teeny tiny little sparks of light, you know, and that's it. It's really helpful to recognize that that's our existence. Where these little, you know, this body's this little tiny blip, you know, and you look at it in geological time, it won't even show up on the map. Oh, it's too quick. But we focus on that. What is it? A microcosm? Is that the small one? Yeah, the little one. You know, we keep looking very, very closely, you know, as if this is it. This is my world. This is all I am. And it magnifies everything. So it makes anything that goes wrong with our day huge. Whereas if we can step back and look at it like it's a movie or something, or look at it from the perspective of time. Is this something that will bother me 4 months from now? Will I remember this 4 months from now? Will I remember it next week? You know, to give ourselves perspective, a more accurate perspective of its meaning or lack of meaning. And this takes a lot of practice, but it is an opportunity every time we get hooked by something where we're a little bit upset or we're kind of craving something or whatever, is to step back and try to look at it. You know, like it's like when you're trying to give up cookies, you know, and you're kind of going, yeah, one won't hurt, you know, whatever you're doing, you know, and, you know, it's like all you can see is that cookie, you know. But if you keep backing up and looking at it in the sense of time and realize, okay, but eating that cookie has some consequences for me. You know, I shouldn't have sugar. I shouldn't have blah, 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 blah. So I'm committing myself to something that's going to harm me in the future. And the habit of which is really going to harm me. Just, you know, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that one cookie. It's the 7,000th cookie that's a problem, you know. So we keep having to step back, and that's true. You know, it's like, okay, this problem that I think so big, if I step back, I'll recognize it as just another detail. You know, it's just, this is what life is like. Constant upheaval, things working, things not working, friends coming, going, you know. Fact that, you know, like I can no longer understand technology. You know, there have been like 3 things I've tried to do this year in 2024, and I couldn't make them work. It's like, oh, I can't figure this out anymore. I just can't do it. I don't, whether it's because I don't care enough to read the instructions carefully or because I'm too stupid now or whatever it is, you know, I just can't do it. And you get enraged over these things. So what does that mean? I narrowed my whole world, my intelligence down to this one little event going, oh my God, I can't do it. And what do I conclude? I can't do anything. Oh my God, I'm old. Oh my God, I'm, and it all just goes out of control. It means obviously, clearly out of control, you know. But if you step back and go, first of all, how important is this? Knowing how to do this. Yeah, it'd be convenient, you know. But like really, in the scheme of things, on your deathbed, you're going to be going, yeah, I could never figure out how to put a Roku stream bar on my stupid TV. Like, there's nothing about that important. The TV's not what I can watch with a sound bar that I can hear is absolutely not important. You know, it's like ridiculous. But you have to keep, you know, but you're grasping, oh no, I have to make this work. And then we all have our different reasons of why it has to work. I can't be so stupid that I can't figure this out. That's my big reason. What do you mean I can't figure this out? That's just like a nightmare to me, you know? And then you have to think about how many things can I not figure out? You know, please, someone don't get, you know, hurt in front of me and expect me to be able to stitch you up. You know, there's so many things I can't do that are so much more important than the stupid tech thing. But that's the way it is. You know, we're interdependent. That's when you call the doctor, the surgeon, the cable guy. So it's this. So our mistake is that we're seeing everything through this grasping view that things exist in the way they appear to exist, you know. And we, as a culture, promote this in our advertising and things. You know, you need all this stuff in order to be happy. You need to be able to do this in order to be happy. You need, you know, it's all this kind of a message that these external things that are external to our inner world are necessary for happiness. And it's not true. So things that are empty of inherent existence, that's sort of like Tibetan Buddhist definition of emptiness. That things are dependent arisings, that nothing is independently originated. So when you get mad at someone, sometimes it's really easy to think this person is a certain way. You know, we just think, ah, what a jerk. And we're not just thinking that that was a jerky thing to do. I mean, we might be thinking that. But if we're really upset, we just think they are that. You know, like they're somehow independently of everything else, this person is and always will be a jerk. We often write people off right then, you know, in that moment, you know, they never have a chance ever again to possibly be in a category of non-jerk, you know, because we've solidified it. You know, so it's helpful for us to always be able to step back and go, all right, this moment's not so great, but that doesn't mean much. You know, we know nothing about this other person, how their day's going, what's in their mind, what their belief system is. Some, you know, maybe they're from a different culture and what they've just said is a compliment. You know, we have a very narrow focus. And as soon as we start to expand that focus, our sense of reality is less wrong, you could say, you know, because we need a wider view. If we're all interdependent and that everything that we do and say and think, you know, can impact others. And there, how many on this planet? How many human beings? 8 billion now. I was reading a book by His Holiness the other day that he wrote when he was like 39. And there were 4 billion people on the planet then. Getting crowded out there. So, and that's just human beings. How many minds are there? Countless. All the mosquitoes have a mind. All the fish in the sea. You know, all those no-see-ums. What do you do with that? So, now they don't have minds that have a good physical support for them to be able to kind of think about these things and take a different perspective. Oh, I won't bite that person. That person is pregnant. I might have Zika. Yeah.
You know, something you said that I use all the time now is when I'm confronted with someone that I think I dislike, whatever they're saying, is that they are suffering too. And that really helps because it really brings it down to the level that I'm suffering and I can understand their suffering.
Yeah, and this is the point of taking a different perspective. Recognizing, first of all, I mean, these are just the standard things. All sentient beings are the same. We want happiness. We don't want to suffer. That includes cockroaches, you know. That one of the reasons, the logical reasons to want everybody to be happy, including ourselves, is we don't act bad when we're happy. We tend to not harm when we're happy. So it's to everybody's advantage if everybody's well taken care of. You know? So when someone is doing something that we think, oh, that's not nice, we can step back and think, well, what am I like when I act that way? What's going on? And usually we can say, well, I'm not happy, you know, or I'm having a bad day. Well, that's true of this other person. We can use our own inner world as a guide to what's happening with others. You know, just like someone else has no clue about what's going on with us on any given day, we don't have any clue what's going on with them. but we can make some educated guesses based on our own experience. You know, no one is having a perfect day. I can pretty much bet on that. You know, everybody has something they're worried about. You know, this is not rocket science. This is really straightforward trust in our own experience and recognizing that we're not different. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, as
please.
you were saying that, I was thinking, okay, so other people are not having a good day. I'm not having a good, but it's the same and opposite of that. There are people all over the world sending us compassion like then too.
Mhm.
And if we can open to that, because there's just too many people practicing Buddhism and
Well,
contemplative type stuff, sending us compassion in that moment.
Well, and if we can open to sending compassion out as our response to the, you know, yucky stuff that's happening today, you know, just like, oh, you know, and so like, you know, you come out, you know, you're ready to go to work, you're running late, blah, 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 and your tire's flat, you know, and you can have self-compassion. Like, oh, that's kind of a drag. I'm gonna be late. This how inconvenient, you know, and I'm suffering because of that. You know, it's not a big deal. Yes, you're suffering, and that's okay to acknowledge. Yes, this is inconvenient. What you don't want to do is make it a big deal. Everybody is suffering the same kinds of inconveniences at the same moment. You know, it's going around. So this is, you know, a way that we can keep with that flow of sending compassion out, sending compassion to ourselves, understanding that there are others. Like one of the tricks that, you know, that I do is I think of the other nuns, you know, that I know, and I know they're sending compassion out to me, and they're also working with their minds, and they're also failing sometimes, you know, and they're all, you know, that this is the way it is, you know. But having that feeling of, okay, this isn't great, but that's okay. You know, that's stepping back. That's not letting what's happening in this moment to your own little life being so big of a deal and acting like it's only happening to you.
Venerable Tendrin,
Yes,
I have one more question and then I'll be quiet.
oh, you don't have to be.
With individuality, right? Because I'm really trying to understand this. There are good things too. People come with special gifts and talents that, you know, like maybe somebody can draw. I can't draw to save my life, or somebody comes up with a life-saving medicine that I have.
And what about your good qualities?
I have other qualities.
Yeah, yeah, we all do. We have the basis for enlightenment. All of us. So what's your question in there?
I guess what I'm saying is, then, is there a point to individuality? Like,
No,
is there?
no. The reason we're individuals is we grasp after a self. That creates the cause to be born in a singular body. And we're not really like that, are we? How much of our body's human? There are literally something like 500 trillion other beings in our bodies, which is more than what can be considered our human parts. Yeah, all of that. All the little microorganisms in our body that kind of keep us healthy, and all that bacteria that's in there going, oh, let's digest some food today. They're not human. So it's just our point of view that says, I'm all by myself here. It's not true. Yes.
So after we come to this realization, how do you move throughout life where you're constantly kind of being reminded with the fable of identity, where, you know, people are reminding you that, you know, you're your mother's daughter and you work at this place. And
Yeah,
we can do this. into infusing the states in the world and what you do, I guess. with who you are.
Once you have wisdom, you don't forget it. Good news, it removes the foundation for our ignorance. So the hard work is before we have that. Okay, so it's now. So that's the whole purpose of these teachings about how to act like a bodhisattva, is how to train our minds, even though we're not enlightened, even though we're not liberated, even though we don't have an uncontrived state of wishing everybody to be happy, wanting to become enlightened so we can help that happen, we have to practice so that we don't fall into the traps that advertisers are trying to sell us. And it isn't that our links that are obvious aren't important. How we treat our families is karmically important. We're born to, our karma determines what family we're born into. So we choose our own families from a perspective of very big ignorance and craving and attachment. So we don't choose our families wisely. We choose them from what we're drawn to, our habits. So there's a very close relationship karmically, between parents and children. It doesn't have to be good. Sometimes it's really not good. Sometimes it's close, where people really have close relationships their whole lives, and sometimes it's not. So it isn't that the teachings are trying to get us to contradict our conventional reality. It's that we want to understand it more, from the point of view of wisdom. We want to understand that the way we see things is distorted by our ignorance. The fact that we don't see things as interdependent, as actually not separate in the way that we appear to be, is something we have to keep reminding ourselves so that we don't get hooked, by whatever, like to me, it's, all those buttons that people push on us, and then we're hooked to, say something not nice, or the other things, we want to recognize that those buttons are our buttons. We've created habits that, that look for signals because we don't feel safe and we want to protect ourselves. So we're looking for signals from other people to say, oh, is this person safe for me? Yes, Hernan.
Reading this book from David Brooks is called How to Know a Person.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
And it's so amazing. And he talks about this conceptual reality that we create, that each individual sees the world different, because all these mind processes that you create throughout your years of your life. So basically, like when I'm watching a sports game, if I'm not a fan of either team, I'll see it completely different from the two people that are fans from different teams, and they see things totally different than each other. So,
and this is what we want to really zero in on in our own little moments, is that the way you're seeing it and experiencing it is entirely different from the other people. I mean, really different. It's not just, it's not just because they're standing over here instead of standing over here. It's a different whole view that they've built up over their entire lives, So Hernan was bringing up David Brooks' book on, what's it called? How to
see others.
How to see others. Is that what it's? No, that's not the name.
How to know a
How to know a person.
Yep, How to Know a Person. He's a columnist for the New York Times, and he's also on the PBS NewsHour on Fridays. He's the conservative commentator.
He has the new one with the Oprah, How to Create Your Own Happiness. Too.
Right. He's been on sort of a spiritual quest the past couple of years. And so his books now are much more focused on our inner work. But I really like him. He's kind of funny. But so this ability to look and to recognize that we're all experiencing things from a view. And the Buddha would say, don't forget that everybody's view is distorted by ignorance. So it's not just your view is distorted by ignorance, so is their view. They're also grasping at you as this separate individual thing, you know. It's really hard. It's amazing we communicate at all, you know, because this is not, it seems like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you know. It's just a like gauzy difference, you know. You can see through it, you know, and it's not that big of a deal, but it can be huge. It's like cultural differences. When I was living in the nun's house in Australia, there were some people from Europe, nuns from Europe, that were also living in the house. And whenever they would have a conversation, they'd go into a room, they close the door. And I would just feel so like excluded and like sort of like, I promise I'm not trying to you know, listen, although of course you will if they're talking in the same room. But you know, it's sort of like, I really was offended. And then years later, I found out that the custom in Europe is to close the door because of heat and cold and all that kind of stuff. They don't heat the whole house, you know, so it's just a habit, you know.
You took a personal.
Oh, I took it totally personally, you know, because we can be idiots. Yeah. Talking about conduct. Well, and we're talking about our perception. That we interpret things and we really think they're true. Oh, I know what he was thinking. And we think we 100% know what they were thinking. And I can bet you they're not thinking about you because they're thinking about them. You know, this is what's so funny is we spend all our time when we actually haven't really been talking to each other at all. You know, it's just kind of interesting. But we need, so while we're trying to get our act together and maybe try to develop habits that don't increase our suffering, we have to continuously notice what we're thinking and what we're doing and how we're doing it, you know. And then we need to be able to step back, you know, and see when we're making a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing, and when we're making assumptions that have no basis. And what's the point of an assumption anyway? It's like Elaine talking about, what's the point of these individual bodies? Well, there really isn't a point. They are the manifestation of our self-grasping.
If to be born into a human body, becoming enlightened.
Why does it give us that opportunity? Because it has a brain that supports the mind. It has a sophisticated brain that supports the mind, which a mosquito does not. The mind of a mosquito and the mind of me are not different. They have the same potential to be a Buddha, just not in that form. So a human rebirth is very precious. The reason why we emphasize not killing human beings is because in that very body, with that very physical support of that mind, there's a chance for them to change that mind in this very life. That's the value of the human body. It's not the body.
Change.
Right. So Mays is talking about how one technique is to remind yourself that you're not this body, you're not this mind, this body, mind-body complex, that you're more than that. I'm not sure about the more than that. But I think that, you know, the main thing is that we're not fixed in any moment. You know, that like, according to the Buddha, if I step out of here, I don't even have to step out of here. If I drop dead right here, I have a heart attack. have a, what do they call them? That thing in your brain,
Aneurysm.
an aneurysm, and I'm dead. Then my mind leaves this body and goes and finds a new one. Right away. I mean, it doesn't, there's no interruption of the continuum of mental events. You know? So worrying about this body isn't of any consequence at all. And what you want to do is create the cause to have another useful body. Okay? So the actions we stress about, you know, being kind, being patient, being generous, being ethical, name some others. Concentration and wisdom, patience, patience. These create the cause, particularly ethics, creates the cause to have a human body.
So
Big-
is that our good karma that goes
Yes.
with the body? Just like
It doesn't go with the body.
mind, It's like the bad karma.
Yeah. It's habits. Our habits of mind are habits of mind. There's no interruption to that. You know, so the seeds we plant with our negative actions, you know, still with us till we purify them. Our seeds of positive actions are still with us. You know, they ripen is all the, like a good, like a human body. And even, you know, really strong good habits can ripen as a perfect human body. What is a perfect human body? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a start, having your faculties. What else do you need? Who cares?
Born in a country where you could practice freely.
Being born in a country where you can practice freely. What else do you need? Like, it's helpful to speak the language of your teachers.
Have access to the
Yeah, to have access to the teachings. Because you can have all your faculties. Say you have all your faculties, but you have no money. Is it harder to use those faculties? Yes. So you want conditions that, you know, so you want to be generous so that you have some resources. Because we want, and then you also want to be generous towards things like teachers and Dharma centers and His Holiness and, you know, worthy projects, so to speak, you know, in order to meet, to have resources for those things in your next life. You know, that you're not just rich, you know, that you're rich and you have a desire for a spiritual path. You know, what other things?
But what about the people that are poor?
Where did that come from?
But they have a very deep spiritual.
Where does that come from?
Oh, maybe they were nice. Oh, they weren't generous. And so they were-
Just recently, just the karmic seed that ripened for this birth was one that, you know, happened to have some miserliness to it. So they don't have resources, but they have a desire for spirituality. So that comes from a good thing of not thinking it's all about me, that I'm trying to see the greater purpose, you know, to our existence, blah, 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 blah. We are a mixed bag. You know, many people who don't have resources are able to use what they have and go so far with it. You know, they become leaders of nations, you know. So it isn't this black or white thing. It is this, we're a mixture, we're interdependent. All these causes and conditions have to come together. We have to create the cause of resources by being generous in our past lives, okay? But if we don't meet the conditions, say we're born to a poor family, you know, so we don't have the same resources. Or like you could be like my father, who was born to a very poor family, but he was white and he was born at, during World War II or before World War II. So he had the GI Bill when he got out of the military. So he was able to get an education without any money. He was born with some intelligence, so he was able to use, and so he was successful in life. So he was a poor child, but not a poor adult. But those conditions had to be there. There hadn't been a war, if there hadn't been a GI Bill, if he hadn't been white, all those things helped him in this culture, in this society at that time.
Then that's saying that white is better than color.
It is now. In this country, in his time. Are you kidding me?
I know, but I mean, it sounds elitist, or it sounds.
Who makes it
racist.
elitist? It is racist and it is elitist. Who makes it that way? We do. It's a manifestation of our habits. To be born in the elite is a result of good karma, because that gives you power. To think that it's because you're white and you're special and da-da-da, guess where you're going to be born next time? We're all trading places.
It's also a privilege not to be able to see it. You have to, if you're given a life that you don't see, like as a white
It's
man,
not a privilege, it's a habit.
forgive me, that's what I meant. Like
You
have
know?
the conditions to not have to connect with other people, to see their pain, to be able to just be in, as a white man, when I studied some of this in my master's, I went through a major awareness of what my white maleness gave me.
But I mean, but the point is, so the point is, the world isn't unfair because somebody is determining it. We're determining it. It's a reflection of our habits. Yes.
So it's not that it's worse to be born as inherent. It's not inherently
Anything. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So it's what you do with it. It's our response to what karma is ripening. Everything's about how do we respond to these conditions in this moment. Do we make use of our good conditions? Do we understand equanimity? Do we understand that all sorts of causes and conditions have to come together for people to make best use of all their faculties? And sometimes you don't meet them. Does that make that person's fault? That's a kind of shallow way of looking at it. And it's also very narrow. Who knows what their next life will be like? Who knows what your next life will be like? If you're sitting there, and I'm picking on you only because I have your story right at the moment, but like say you're on your deathbed and all you're thinking about those stupid ants eating your cat food. And you could just kill those ants. You're going to die with a very negative mind. And that negative mind is going to result in the kind of rebirth you'll have. So we want to practice having a non-negative mind as much as we can, so that at the moment of death, when you have that aneurysm and you go boom, you have a positive mind, because your habit is to have a positive mind. A calm mind, hopefully. That I don't know what those are like, but hopefully, but a mind that's leaning towards, cherishing others, not one that's, all about me. So that when you're on your deathbed, you're thinking, about, not holding on to this body, but just, making sure that, your loved ones are okay, the best you can, and having a peaceful mind.
Well, that's attainable.
That is very attainable, because it's just about habit. It's just about, okay, I'm not going to go to, it's like married couples who decide they're not going to go to bed angry. And if they keep up with that, how beneficial that is to their relationship. Because it doesn't mean that I'm just going to pretend like I'm not angry. It means you work on it so you're not angry. So, because you're developing a habit. This is why we do purification at night before we go to bed, to try to kind of clean up our karmic act from that day, where we kind of go, oh, I didn't do that so well. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I regret that. I'm going to try really hard tomorrow not to do that first. We're trying to, and then we go, oh, but look at all the good stuff I did. I smiled at this person. I did something to help this person. I did that. I was nice to the telemarketer who called on the phone. And then you have, and you feel good about that. Oh, I have the potential to become a Buddha. You don't have to go that far if that's not your thing. But it's just, it's sort of like, oh, I can do this. It's just habits. And I have lots of, not so great habits. And I also have lots of good habits. So it's just, so we want to die with the mind of the good habits. And that just is practice, yes. And what inherent labeling of good and bad?
Yeah.
Not in conventional reality. In conventional reality, there are things that are bad. Hating someone is not a good mind to have.
Their name. Their naming.
Okay, so I don't know the point of, okay, so yes, I'm naming it.
My experience.
Is what?
Living without name.
Well, living without naming, yes. And this is one of the things, because the more you observe your own mind, the more you're aware of your own mind, and the less you're like getting all judgy about it, and all, and the same with others, and you don't look at other people and immediately start judging them. The less we do it, the less we are constantly superimposing a permanent, independent name onto something. So it's true, it's like, it's helpful to think in terms of there are certain actions that are negative, maybe I don't want to do those, don't want to encourage those. But when the moments arise, we can just let go of any kind of labeling it, and let go. It's sort of like, okay, say, like for me, impatience is something that's really easy for, I have a strong habit of impatience. So it comes up all the time, but the more I can look at it, you're just being impatient, let it go. It's a very brief kind of experience. If I grasp after that and go, oh, that's wrong of you to think that way, that, you're dooming your rebirth. I can't let it go. So grasping after anything is not helpful. No. Everybody's sweating. Want to know? No hot flash. Those are so long gone. No worries. Huh? Yeah, some people are freezing.
No, I'm still having hot flashes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, what I love, the beauty of hot flashes is when you're going through that, you suddenly can't get away with anything. It's like as soon as you're slightly annoyed, it comes on. It's like, oh, okay. All the nuns were going through hot flashes at the same time.
It's fun.
No control. And it's really this window, it's like a mirror going, oh, guess what, friends? You're annoyed. So that was just so funny to learn. But you have to notice. You're not going to learn it if you're not paying attention to what's going on in your mind at the time. So it's all about opportunities. Every moment holds opportunities for us, to learn to let go, to learn to just not take ourselves so seriously, not to take the events that are happening to us like they're all big deals and taking them too seriously. It's not that, that it isn't that there's some events that certainly we all welcome, and there are other events that none of us welcome, all that kind of stuff. It's just that it's all life. It's all just moments. And the way we respond mentally to those moments really matters to our well-being. So it's to our benefit to step back, especially when we're hooked, whether it's a craving like, oh, I have to have that kind of hook, or, oh my God, this is the end kind of hook, to step back and let it not have so much power over us. Because it's actually no big deal. There's almost nothing that's a big deal. Enlightenment might be a big deal, but you won't care. But how y'all doing at home? Huh? Okay. We don't have AC today. So I'm enjoying the experience of what?
Being an Indian.
Sweating. I'm tired.
But to make you feel good, you're not so good at technology, you're good at giving advice. Maybe you could tell me your opinion of my New Year's resolutions is to watch more TV and eat more chocolate. Is that a good idea?
No, because I have an opinion. And like what for what it's worth, that's what's so funny is that one of the reasons we get jostled around all day long, with our moods, we go up and down, is that we give more credence to external view than we do to our own view. It's like if somebody says something that we think's insulting, we don't go inside and kind of go, no, is there any validity to that? Or is it just reflect them? Maybe something's going on with them or anything. Now we kind of go, oh, either we externalize it and say what jerks they are, or we internalize it, what a jerk I am, instead of just, just checking up. It's always good if someone kind of criticizes you to check up. Is there any truth to that? Can I do better with this or da da da? And if your answer is no, then there's no reason to be upset. If their answer is yes, there's no reason to be upset because you can work on that. It's all workable. Okay. So think anything y'all want to discuss for the new year. So think about it, send me an email, show up with a question, rock and roll with your idea. So, okay. Now, any announcements?
Just the usual. We have, if you weren't here for the meditation, every Sunday we have a meditation class that starts at 10:15. And on Tuesdays, Hernan, raise your hand, Hernan. Hernan is very kindly volunteered. He's doing chair yoga. Hernan is a certified yoga teacher. And on Wednesday, he's giving more
All levels.
All levels.
And that one's not chair yoga. And then on Thursday, we just started a new class with Venerable Tendrin in the evening. It's on purification, which she did reference a little bit earlier when we talked about purification a little bit. So there is that class now on Thursday evenings. And then coming up, we have some guest teachers coming. Paula Chichester will be here in March. Venerable Amy is coming in April. And then over the summer, we'll have Venerable Keldon. And there'll be some emails going out giving more information about these teachers in the event you're not familiar with them, and more details about what's going to be happening. So if you don't receive our emails, there's a little form up here. You can just put your information, and we don't bombard you. Hernan, in his infinite kindness, works on the newsletter for us once a month. And then occasionally there'll be something special, but it's not going to, overwhelm you.
What was the last?
So Paula, we'll talk about it, Marianne.
Oh.
So Paula Chichester in March. Paula Chichester was a nun, and when she was a nun, she did 2 long retreats, like maybe 2, 6 years
I
worth.
heard 3 years.
They're 3 years, but she's did 2 or 3 of them. So that'd be 6 or 9 years.
So I think 3.
3. Okay. So she has a lot of experience with obviously meditation and practice, but also she does a lot of work with body work to help us. Her starting teaching usually with, if you're going into retreat with her is, you know, that we don't know how to relax. So we first have to relax our bodies, and then we can get into the meditation bit. So she's pretty cool. Then Venerable Amy, most of you have met her, be here in April. So, you know, she comes around regularly. She's been on she was like second a job out in California for a while, so we didn't see her for a while, but she's back around. And then over the summer, Venerable Keldon, first of all, you get a male perspective. You'll have, he also speaks, you know, Spanish, Portuguese, English, you know.
He speaks 7 languages, and he is going to give classes in Spanish and in Portuguese.
So, you know, how cool is that? What a better state for that. I mean, this is a great state for that. So if you happen to know people who kind of might be interested in some of these teachings, but language is a barrier, you know, might want to let them know. But he'll be here this summer, and that means I can escape this for the summer. Since you know my fondness for heat. So anyway, yay. Okay, so let's pray. So what we want to do now is we want to kind of rejoice over any positive thoughts, just the fact that we intended to show up. We did show up. We didn't run screaming out, you know, which is okay too. It's the screaming part that you might want to, you know, clean up. But it's, you know, so we want to feel good about our efforts or our intention that we set at the beginning, you know, and we want to dedicate anything positive that may come out of this effort to others, you know. So, all right. So we're looking at the prayers on page 246. And this is the great Bodhisattva action of giving away your virtue, basically, your good things to be of benefit to others. Fortunately, you're still going to get them ripen on you. So it's not like you actually give them away. So in case you're worried about that.
I was at the beginning.
Hey, I get that. All right. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then the long life prayer for His Holiness, it's on page 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until sorrow ends. And then the prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. It's on page 225 in the books, I think. Is that right? Or is it 234 or 335? Anybody remember? 234. Okay. He died this past, oh my gosh, last year. Past April. Okay. peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. And spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings, wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged, incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one's teachings, gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge. Suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. As through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta, the children of victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. You know, the underlying lines in there, you know, Muni and, you know, precious and whatever, that's Lama Zopa's name. They always, when they make prayers, they include the person's name in them. So that's why they're marked, you know, because it's Thubten Zopa, Lama Thubten Zopa. Just kind of a little tidbit of, you know, like, aren't you curious why they're
Very-
underlining them?
Very impressive.
Thanks, Nana.
The
That they
prayers.
do that. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. So, all right. That's it. Thank you, Nana. Thank you. Hang in there, folks at home. Hugs, hugs.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Venerable.
Thank you,
Ken.
Venerable Tendon. It was wonderful. Thank you so
Appreciate you.
much.
Good to see you.
Thank you,
You
everybody.
too.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Take care.
Nana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Brian.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Bye-bye.